Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining this live webinar for Neuroeconomics, one of the specializations of the Research Master in Cognitive and Clinical Neuroscience. My name is Letizia Micheli, and I'm currently doing my PhD in Neuroeconomics at Maastricht University, but I didn't do my Research Master in Neuroeconomics. So that's why I'm here today as a moderator for this session to help you learn a little bit more about this program, about this specialization, and I will also hopefully learn a little bit more as well. So today we'll be discussing many topics such as the program's content, your students' perspectives, the admissions procedures, the career options, and many more. The important thing is that you will be deciding the topics that we'll be discussing here by sending us your questions. The rules are very simple. We'll be taking the time to answer all the questions you might have. You just have to post your questions in the comments section, and I will be passing them to our panel. So, speaking of our panel, let's introduce them.
Hello, welcome from my side. I hope you have the popcorn ready. I'm Matthias Wiebral. I'm the coordinator of the Neuroeconomics track of the Research Master in Clinical and Cognitive Neuroscience. I'm also an associate professor at the School of Business and Economics, mainly doing research in behavioral economics and finance, organizational economics, and also, of course, neuroeconomics.
My name is Roos Timmermans. I'm 21 years old, and I have started this year with the Research Master in Neuroeconomics. Before, I studied economics and business economics in Groningen, and I'm from the Netherlands.
Hello, I'm René Reikens. I'm the admissions officer at the Faculty of Psychology and Neuroscience, and I mainly focus on the master admissions, and I process all applications for the master programs.
Thank you very much. So I will start with one question for Matthias. So as we already mentioned, neuroeconomics is a specialization of the Research Master in Cognitive and Clinical Neuroscience, and as a matter of fact, a very, very modern discipline. So Matthias, maybe you could tell us a little bit what was the idea behind developing and starting this program.
Okay, so neuroeconomics is a fairly new discipline. It only really took off, let's say, in the first half of the 2000s. And the first generation of researchers were really basically self-taught people. They learned about the methods of the other disciplines by reading books or picking something up on the way while doing research with their colleagues. But very soon there was the realization that this was a very inefficient way to learn. So there was a demand for people who knew how to speak the language of the other disciplines, who knew the methods of the other disciplines, but there was no program for it. And this is when we decided to set up such a program. And fortunately, there was already this research master established. So in terms of infrastructure, we could join this nice master program and set up this neuroeconomics track. It took a while to get this started, but we finally did get started in 2012. And so far, the program has been very successful. We've just received for the third time in a row the Keuzigit's #1 ranking in the Netherlands. So that's the national study ranking in the Netherlands in our category. And we have had so far about 60 students from 21 different nationalities.
Very well. So psychology and neuroscience are very broad fields, right? So maybe you could explain to us what neuroeconomics is about, or what parts of this discipline neuroeconomics actually explores.
Okay, so basically the idea behind neuroeconomics, or some people also call it decision neuroscience, is to study decision making of humans, and we're mainly concerned with decision making of healthy humans. And the overall idea is to take insights from neuroscience, psychology, and economics and combine them to better understand how humans actually make decisions. This is our overall goal. How is this reflected in our curriculum? We rest on basically 4 pillars. The first pillar is what we would call brain and behavior. And there the goal is really to learn about what have different disciplines, how have they thought about the way humans make decisions. So you will first have a course where we try to establish this common language, a course that is called Economics meets Neuroscience meets Psychology. But you will also learn about models from the different disciplines how they have thought about decision making. So we will have classes in microeconomics, a class in social neuroscience. So the idea is really to study decision making from all different angles. The second pillar is one where you learn the methods that neuroeconomists commonly use, and that is things like functional magnetic resonance imaging, transcranial magnetic stimulation. And the idea is to not only teach you about the foundations of these methods, but also to let you apply these methods. The third pillar is more generally what we would call research methods. So there you will have a class, for example, on experimental economics. So the idea is to teach you how starting from a research question, what a good design of an experiment is, all the way to the statistical analysis. And you will also learn, for example, how to write a research grant. And then in the second year, all these three pillars come together for the fourth pillar, because then you will have the opportunity to really apply everything that you have learned in a very long research internship, so 36 weeks of a research internship. And you can either do this here in Maastricht, but many people also go abroad to many different places.
Sounds very interesting. So, Roos, you mentioned that you're currently doing the research master in neuroeconomics. How did you first find out about this specialization?
So, as I already told, I've studied economics and business economics. And I really liked it, but I also missed something because it's really abstract and it's difficult to apply to the real world. So I talked with my professor, and he said I should read into a book of Daniel Kahneman, Reading Fast and Slow. And that actually made me aware of the fact that economics is often combined with psychology to study human behavior. So then I took some psychology courses to see whether I really liked it. And I did. So I started looking for programs that combined those fields. And then I found that this research master in neuroeconomics existed. And besides psychology and economics, it also has the neuroscience part. So you really look at, from the neural mechanisms, how people make decisions or how people behave in certain situations. So that's how I found it.
Very nice. So you have been in the program for a few months now, right? Mm-hmm. So are there any favorite courses so far?
Yeah, I really like microeconomics too. It's about game theory. But actually what makes it really interesting is the combination of all courses, because from each course you can use something for the next course. So it's really nice to see how these fields interact and can be combined to study one thing together.
Yes. So Roos successfully completed the selection procedure for the neuroeconomics. René, could you maybe walk us through the steps of an application process?
Yes, of course. I would recommend all applicants to first go to the website of the program and to read about the application and admission procedure. The application starts in StudyLink. There you apply for the Research Master program and the specialization. And after a couple of days, you will receive login details for the Maastricht University portal, in which you have to upload documents. And that makes it also important to apply in time, well before the deadline, because it takes a couple of days between StudyLink and before you can start uploading documents. We receive quite a lot of questions about the reference letters that are required for the program. And the main confusion is that some applicants think that they can upload reference letters themselves, but unfortunately they're not allowed to do so. Applicants have to ask 2 referees to complete an online reference form, and the referees have to fill it in and submit it, and we upload it for the candidates in their file in the MyUM portal. And that, you should be aware that it might also take a couple of days extra, not to put too much pressure on your referees. English is also important because the program is in English, and all candidates should have successfully completed the required English language exam. Mm-hmm. So, and we help students through the application process, and we answer questions and if they're facing troubles or whatever. And we send reminders if the file is not complete. And once your file is complete, we hand it over to the Board of Admissions, and they decide whether or not you are admissible to the program.
Okay, very well. Matthias, could you maybe give us some insight into how you actually select these candidates?
Okay. So once we receive all your files from the admissions office, we screen the applications, and what we're looking for are mainly two things, I would say. First one is we want people who are really passionate about research, who are really interested in research and who really like to think deeply about questions and who are passionate about finding out more about how human decision making works. That's the type of people that we're looking for. So for that, it's also really important that you can tell us why you want neuroscience in there. So very often that it is important for us to know, would this person be better served with a behavioral economics master program or really a neuroeconomics master program? So we're really also looking for people who want the neuroscience in there and who can convince us of that. So that's let's say the one part that we're looking for. The other is because this is a demanding program and you have to learn about the methods from 3 different disciplines. What we are looking for is the ability that you will be able to handle also the more formal aspects of the program. So it requires a certain amount of math, a certain amount of statistics, and we're looking for people whom we are confident that they can master this challenge. So those are the 2 aspects that we're really looking for.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Roos, how did you experience yourself the admission procedure?
I think, well, I found out about the master quite soon, so I had enough time to prepare all my documents and such. So for me, it wasn't really stressful with any deadlines or anything. But still, you need the reference letters, of course, and that, I studied economics and business economics, which was a really big study, so my professors didn't really know me as a person very well. So it was a bit of a hassle for me to find the referees. But at the end, I succeeded. And then I got through the first round, so I was invited for a Skype interview and to do an assignment. And the Skype interview was actually, it was nice to see the people who you are going to work with if you're accepted. So that was nice, but they really try to find out how you answer like critical questions, for example, about your grades or anything. But it's important to notice that there's not like a bound of grades. So there's not a minimum grade required to apply for the program. But still, they might ask you questions about it. The assignment was also, it was actually nice to do. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was okay. I didn't think it was the best Skype interview that I had, but I'm here, so it all worked out well. Yeah.
Good. So in the second year of the research master in Neuroeconomics, the students normally do a research internship, either here in Maastricht or abroad. So could you maybe give us some examples of what the students normally do in these internships, what types of internships they normally do?
Mm-hmm. So the range of potential topics is quite large because the field also addresses a lot of different questions. So one example that from the very first generation of the master is our student, our alumna Evina Panti. She did her research internship here at Maastricht, and what she was looking for in a project is called a common neural currency for values. So in Germany we have the saying you should not compare apples with pears because they're so different. But if you think about it, the brain does this all the time. So what she is interested in is basically how does the brain compute a common neural value to compare options that are very different. And she was basically interested in the question, does this process work for things like snack items, like where you have to choose between different types of food, but also for things like very different things, like, for example, charitable giving. And she was looking for a common neural currency between these two types of decisions. But we have people who also did their internship in computational neuroscience groups. We have somebody who went to the UC Santa Barbara to look at computational models in psychiatry. So the range is really broad. We have people who went to somebody went to Bergen to study inequality in a behavioral economics group. So the range is quite broad. Maybe a little bit about the internship process. Usually we try to help students as much as possible to first find out what kind of internship they want to do, because it's not always easy to find what kind of research you are interested in, because there's so much out there. But then also to support you in the process of actually getting where you want to get. And so far I think we have been quite successful. We have placed several students in Caltech, somebody in MIT for their internship, Cambridge, Oxford. So I think the range of options is really, really big.
No, good. So now moving a little bit to the topic of career prospects. It's always a topic that is important to discuss and a topic of interest. So can you maybe talk a little bit about the career options that students might have after graduating from the Research Master in Neuroeconomics?
Mm-hmm. So, and this is a research master program. That means we're looking for people who like to think deeply about things. And it serves as a preparation for a PhD. I mean, that's the main goal that this program was set up to do. And over 80% of our students finally go on to do a PhD, but they do it in different fields. So our goal is to prepare you for a PhD in cognitive neuroscience, behavioral economics, neuroeconomics, decision neuroscience, so a really broad range of fields. Those alumni who have gone on to careers outside of academia, most of them ended up in positions that value analytical skills and understanding of human decision making. So we have somebody who works for the Lithuanian Ministry of Education now, somebody who does human resources in a startup in Berlin. We have somebody who works in a company that does e-mental health, so mental health applications via the internet. So the range is quite broad. We also have somebody who works in a trust fund, so in finance, basically.
Yeah. Good. Roos, maybe walk us through a little bit. What is a typical day in the life of a research master student in neuroeconomics?
It really depends on the period. At the moment, we have quite a busy period, which has a lot of lectures, tutorials, practicals. So we actually now spend quite some time at university. But of course, you also need quite some time to do some self-study and prepare everything. But besides that, you still have time for social activities. So for example, I joined a wheeler association, a student wheeler association here, where I train once a week, and I have a lot of time to have dinners with friends, or you still have time left. But for example, this morning we had 2 hours of practical for statistics, and in the afternoon we will have another lecture of statistics as well. So that's it for today.
Okay, I think we have the first question for the
Yes.
audience.
Yes. So we have a question from Susana Roman Garcia. Thank you very much for your question. So she wants to know, how does the funding work for the second year internship? And if you go abroad, for example, is this funded?
So the short answer is not very much. Let's put it like this. Yeah. So there's some smaller scholarships available, some kind of Erasmus scholarships available, but by and large, people finance the internships themselves. That's sometimes people manage to get a position in the research group that they're basically joining, but it's not very common, I would say.
Mm-hmm. So there are also a couple of more questions. So could you maybe mention the start date of the course? It's also a question from Susanna.
Yeah. The actual classes usually start in the first week of September. Before that, and I think it's a very nice tradition, there's the introduction weekend at Maastricht University, where you basically get to know the university, but you also get to know your fellow students. So we have a lot of social activities, even a party in the first week, or maybe several ones. You're more an expert in that. But I think it's a really nice way to get to know your classmates and the university. So that would be the last week of August, and it's really mandatory to be here.
And one more interesting question. So she also asks if there is any flexibility in choosing courses. So maybe can also, you both can explain this. And how many courses are there per semester?
There is not really a flexibility in the courses. We have fixed courses because it's a combination of psychology, economics, and neuroscience. So they want us to have like a master's level at the end of these courses. So we need to have a lot of courses in order to be able to do that. So we don't have any electives. And also the number of courses per period, it differs a bit. So the first periods are a bit, I wouldn't say easier, but you have less courses, so you don't have to worry about too much things at the same time. But now, for example, in the fourth period, we have 4 real courses and colloquia. So yeah, it really differs on the period.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Also because the different courses have different sizes in terms of ECTS that you can earn. But it's on the website, so if you want to know more about that, you can maybe visit the website for a clearer view.
Yes,
yeah.
Good. So one of the aspects that the research master really prides itself on is the small-scale education, right? So small groups enable teachers and tutors to give each student a little bit of more individual attention. So how do you experience this as a student host?
I really like it. Because in my bachelor, I had a really big study of 300 or 400 people. So it's really different, and you really get to know each other, well, in the introduction week already, very well. So you basically spend a lot of days together, and also you know all the professors and they know you by name. So it's really different than what I was used to, and I really like it. And also we have some social activities, dinners and sometimes drinks, which we try to do once in 2 months approximately. Yeah, so it's really nice.
Maybe I can add that some of the classes are shared with all the students in the track. With all the students in the research master. So statistics you will have with also people from the, let's say, cognitive neuroscience track or drug development. So all about 100 students. But many classes are really in groups of 10, 15 people. So that's, and only within your specialization or together with cognitive neuroscience. So there's a mix of both.
Okay. All right. So this question can be either for Matthias or for Jose. Are there any misconceptions that you had about the program or that you frequently see that students have about this program when they are about to start?
Okay, Rose already pointed out one important misconception. There's no grade requirement. Yeah, so there may be rumors running around that there's a cutoff below which you shouldn't even apply. Please let us do the decision, and if you're interested, please apply. I can assure you there's no fixed grade cutoff below which you have no chance. We always look at all aspects of the application. Grades are of course one aspect, but we're also looking at the motivation, maybe your research experience, many different things. And so that's, I think, a very common misconception. That's what I would say is the most common misconception.
Anything else from?
No, I don't know.
Good. All right. So I think our time is almost up. So I'll see if there are any other questions.
Yeah, please ask them now.
Yes. But if not, I would like to thank you first. Thank first our panel for being here, for clarifying some questions and explaining us a little bit more about what the research master in neuroeconomics actually is. And of course, I would also like to thank the viewers for tuning in, posing questions, and interacting with us. So if your question has not been answered, or if you didn't have the time to be here, or if you actually have more questions now, you will make sure to answer those questions after this live session. So just make sure that you post them on the comment section, and we'll make sure that they are answered. Thank you very much. I hope you understood a little bit more about the Research Master in Neuroeconomics, and we all hope to see you soon.
We're looking forward to your applications.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.